and a notorious globalist technocrat has now been placed in charge of negotiations centered on rebuilding post-war Ukraine. Gateway Pundit reports that BlackRock CEO and notorious globalist Larry Fink will join Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff at the Ukraine negotiating table. Fink will focus apparently on reconstruction and the efforts there in the war-torn Eastern European country. Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed discussions will focus on an economic plan for post-war reconstruction. When even a staunchly pro-Trump outlet like the Gateway Pundit is showing signs of concern, well, that is a signal that something has gone awry in this Trump administration. The outlet noted that the Russia-Ukraine war has now morphed from a sovereign crisis into a business deal negotiation. The White House has placed a World Economic Forum honcho at the helm of the negotiations. So what could possibly go wrong, right? In 2022, Fink, he lamented that the Russia-Ukraine war would bring an end to globalism. Now, apparently, he's in charge of rebuilding the country, and he will apparently transform it into a model of technocracy, exhibiting all the sinister values of the World Economic Forum. That's what some fear. The war? Oh, it had been in progress less than a year when President Zelensky first spoke with Fink in a teleconference back in December 28th, to be precise, 2022. Apparently, the two men agreed to then coordinate investments that were geared toward rebuilding Ukraine after the war's end. Zelensky, he released a public statement after the call. And during the conversation, well, it was emphasized that certain BlackRock leaders plan to visit Ukraine in 2023. Zelensky, he thanked Larry Fink for the work of, well, the professional team that BlackRock has allocated to advise on structuring the reconstruction projects. So this has been in the works now, I guess, for several years. And it's, well, not a pretty sight. Because what is really sad about the whole thing, it seems, is it comes down to money. Money and resources, and who gets to wield the most power in a reshaped global order. That's what the East and the West are battling for in Ukraine, I think. It's nothing to do really with democracy or freedom. And any politician who tries to tell you that, I think, is lying to your face and should be dismissed, I think, as a con man. What are your thoughts? Would you like to gain access to 36 years of Christian worldview programming, news and information, all my books, ebooks, documentaries, and more? Worldviewtube.com/vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Understand the times, where we've been and where we're going. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Furious Australians are demanding an end to mass immigration after two suspected Muslim jihadists opened fire on a Jewish event at Bondi Beach, leaving at least 15 dead and 29 injured. One of the terrorists has been named as 50-year-old Naveed Akram. He was joined by his 24-year-old son. The father was killed by police, and the son was listed in critical condition. The father was a licensed gun owner with 6 firearms. Police confirmed Monday that they are not looking for a third shooter. The father and son jihadist team, they targeted the Hanukkah by the Sea event that began at 6:30 p.m. local time Sunday night. A homemade bomb was also found at the scene. The horrific attack, it sparked anger from everyday Aussies who blame the same politicians giving their condolences over the attack for being the ones who actually imported these refugees from foreign wars, including many hostile immigrant groups. Brian Marlowe, a Citizen Go campaigner, he wrote on social media, quote, "Every time you meet a politician, media talking head, or political activist, simply ask them one question. Do you support re-immigration? If their answer is anything other than yes, they are your enemy. They are partly to blame for what has just happened," end quote. Some compared the attack to the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack on Israel and noted that only the quick response of an extremely brave civilian stopped the attack from being much worse. A civilian man, he was caught on video charging one of the shooters and wrestling the rifle away from him. Watch this.
Oh! C'est un malade.
Oh mon gros. Oh,
Ouais, mais il a ses potes, il va se faire tirer dessus. Il est trop con, le mec qui a l'arme.
le mec est hyper courageux. Oh.
March for Australia organizer Beck Freedom, he argued that, quote, we are now essentially witnessing the Palestinian versus Israel war take place on Australian soil, end quote. And what will the Australian government's response to this tragedy be? Well, this Australian commentator is pretty sure his government will push all the wrong buttons. Watch this.
Make no mistake, this government will not take responsibility for it. They won't ask how it was allowed to fester. They won't admit their failures because this chaos suits them. What comes next is predictable. More excuses to strip freedoms, more surveillance, more control, more pressure to disarm ordinary Australians while the real problems are ignored. This government is obsessed with global agendas, global applause, global talking points, and completely disconnected from its own people. They keep repeating the same hollow line. Diversity is our strength. No, diversity is not our strength. Unity is. The real Australian spirit wasn't found in a slogan. It was found in that man who ran towards danger, who dived in, who stopped a gunman with his bare hands. That is courage. That is unity. That is Australia. Watch closely now. Watch how this Labor government uses strategy to expand power, not fix the cause. They will exploit this moment. They always do. And Australians are starting to see it.
In fact, that man's predictions are already coming true. Government leaders held an emergency meeting the day after the Bondi attack, and they have already decided to further strengthen Australia's, well, extremely tight gun laws. We'll keep you posted. NBC News 4 in Columbus, Ohio, has an article that links data centers to miscarriages and rare cancers. The article, citing a report from Rolling Stone and officials in Monroe County, Oregon, linked dangerous levels of nitrates in the county's water supply. They linked them to the presence of an Amazon data center. The report alleged that the data center's immense water demands made nitrates seep into the area's underground water supply faster than it could be filtered out, leading to miscarriages, cancers, and other health complications. Amazon, on their part, strongly denied the connection. Data centers, well, they have been linked to health concerns far beyond the scope of Rolling Stone's report, which worries many residents that live near data centers. And there is a data center hub in central Ohio. According to datacenters.com, Amazon has 28 data centers in central Ohio, mostly near Albany, Hillard, and Dublin. In all, Data Center Map tallied 133 data centers in central Ohio. It's more than half of Ohio's 215 total data center projects. Dublin resident and data center activist Amy Swank said, quote, it's been clear to me that there is a lack of understanding and a need for education. What these really do, how they really impact our electricity, our water, our community noise, pollution level, light pollution level. And then what are the economic benefits to having one? I don't think people truly grasp that, end quote. Caltech researchers found that data centers' air pollutants are expected to contribute to 1,300 premature deaths every year in the U.S. by 2030. Researchers said data centers can significantly degrade air quality, creating a public health burden of up to $20 billion in the next 2 years. The authors of the Caltech study said, quote, if you have family members with asthma or other health conditions, the air pollution from these data centers could be affecting them right now. It's a public health issue we need to address urgently, end quote. In Oregon, complaints against Amazon's data center were water-centric, with the immense water demands reportedly making it nearly impossible to filter out nitrates. Rolling Stone alleged 68 of 70 Oregon wells tested had nitrate levels that violated the federal safety threshold. Of the first 30 homes officials visited, well, they heard of at least 25 miscarriages and 6 people who had a kidney removed.